Thank you, Brother Gross. We wanted to express our appreciation to the steering committee and asking us to do this. And we trust that we can have something to say that will be beneficial, be a blessing. So the Lord bless them, the Lord bless you. You know, there's a lot of things we can do that we can reach the apex of. Some of you have been in skilled trades. I used to be in one when I worked and on a secular job. And I was an apprentice, worked my way up to journeyman. And there were men who worked with me that, to me, it was a compliment. They asked me to do the type of work we were in. Would you do this for me, them personally? I was complimented by that. And, you know, there's some jobs and some trades you can reach the top in. You can go as far as it's possible to go. You can know just about everything there is to know about it. And you can be as good in it as anyone can be. But you can only be so good because there's only so much opportunity. But in doing this, preaching the word of the Lord, gentlemen, we just never get good enough. We can't say, well, he's doing it because he's good. No, we're just doing it because we're here and whatever reason. But in your field of labor, you can get as good as it is possible to get. You can be the epitome. But in doing this, we just have the feeling that we just never are really good enough. I knew when I would take those tools in my hand, I knew just what to do. I could tell them in what hour to come 2 or 3 days later to pick up their vehicle. I had it right down to a science. I knew exactly. And I knew just what they wanted, and I knew just how to do it. But it's not the case with this. We just, you know, I was good at what I did. I could make a living at it. Sometimes I wonder, God have mercy, why do you let me make a living at this when we're not all that good at it? We'll never get real good at it. You may be seated. Might have your stand in a few moments for the reading of the word of the Lord, but I want to mention something, first of all, and I respect the time. I have my watch right here. It's like the little boy and his mother went to church. And people were praying. He said, Mom, what's that? What is that? What are they doing? She explained it to him. Person got up to sing and play an instrument. Said, Mom, what does that mean? And she told him. Preacher got up, took off his wristwatch and set it up here. The little boy said, Mom, what does that mean? She said, nothing, honey, nothing. Doesn't mean a thing. Well, I think you get the point. I'd like to just mention something that would be like a cover sheet for what we're talking about today. A couple of years ago, the Lord gave me a message. I only preached it in one time. And I felt the Holy Ghost directing me with it. And I'm not going to preach it again today, but I'll use it just sort of as a cover sheet. Because today I'm just going to teach you. I'm just going to teach a Bible study. Sit back, unlock your seatbelts, take it easy. And we don't expect any bumpy journey. Don't expect any bumps in the road or activity here. So, you know, like in an airplane, they say, buckle your seatbelts, turbulence, you know. I don't think there's going to be any turbulence here this morning. Just sit back, relax, take it easy. But what I wanted to say was pose a question, like I say, as to cover everything. And that was the title of my message, and the question was, whatever happened to pride? And I take off from that because you don't hear much about the bubonic plague anymore, do you? You don't hear much about polio anymore. We don't have big outbreaks of cholera, influenza. There's a lot of things that you just don't hear about anymore because medical science has eradicated them, almost. You know, maybe third world countries, they can have things, but in the United States, we enjoy a very high standard of living, and there's just some things that almost completely have been eradicated. We think, whatever happened to that? And okay, thank you. And they're talking about pride. Whatever happened to it? You don't hear much about it anymore. You don't hear much about the Black Plague or influenza. Medical science is taking care of them. They almost don't exist. And is that what's happened to pride? Is it gone? Is it all gone from us? It's been eradicated? We've been at this long enough that we don't have to even worry about. I don't think there's anyone here that's going to worry about getting the bubonic plague. I'm not. Don't play with rats, you know, fleas and stuff like that. It decimated about a third of Europe back in the Middle Ages, but is pride gone? We don't have to worry about it anymore. Whew. It's all gone. I'm not affected by it. Germ won't get me. I'm not affected by pride anymore. It doesn't exist anymore. We've taken care of it. Because you don't hear about it much. But in the Bible, it's mentioned many times. Never in a good connotation. Now, you know, we can have what we call pride, and we call it decency and self-respect. I addressed someone in our church the other day, well, just because of their behavior and conduct and some habits, and I said, "Sister," I went like this, I said, "it's a matter of dignity." Dignity. You know, we need a degree of dignity. We really do. Just as a human being, because we're made in the image of God. And I think God is very dignified. That doesn't mean that we have dignity and exclusivity and, you know, think that we're exclusive. And no, not that kind, but just in self-respect that I'm a human being. I'm made in the image of God. I shave and comb my hair and put on a clean shirt, you know, and things like this. A little bit of dignity. Because if I don't look good, if my tie is all messed up, my shirt's got a spot on it, and my suit has threads on it, you're going to look at my wife and say, "What's wrong with her?" If she doesn't look good, you're going to look at me and say, "What's wrong with him?" Everybody said amen. If she's not dressed right, she may be criticized. By the way, this thought came from her. Sounds okay, doesn't it? But you look at me and say, "Why does he let her run around like that for? What does he let her wear that for?" Well, anyway, pride's gone, isn't it? Don't have to worry about it anymore. So I get to talk about something today that we just don't have to worry about anymore. Well, we almost, you don't hear about it anymore. Just don't hear about it. There's a word in the Webster's dictionary in our vocabulary. The word is engine. E-N-G-I-N-E. Engine. Everybody knows what an engine is. When we think of that word, we think of something under the hood of our automobile, on the back of your boat, under the gas tank in a motorcycle, whatever. It's an engine. This is what Webster says it is. Anything used to effect a purpose. Any agent, means, or method to effect a purpose. An engine is what drives you and me. An engine drives that car. Internal combustion engine, it drives that car. Every one of us have some kind of an engine in our life. Some of them are good. Some of them are not so good. And with the help of the Lord, I just, for the sake of the man running the tape, you can put the title on this, The Engine of Apostasy. People are apostates because they've been driven to something. God doesn't drive people, He leads people. You know, as a shepherd, you can't drive people, you have to lead people. But if there's anything that is a danger in the apostolic movement, and Lord have mercy, we have seen it. We have seen it, and it's not over, and that's apostasy. Going away from the truth, going away from right doctrine and holiness and all of those things, and becoming apostate. We hear the word and we recoil at that word, and something inside of us just turns over because I think, oh God, I might be a lot of things, but I don't want to be an apostate. I don't want to be apostate. People may fall into sin and fail God and perish the thought there. But yet to be apostate is about as bad as you can go, because you don't know you're wrong. It's not, well, I'm an apostate and I know it. No, nobody thinks they're apostate. And there's lots of them around, but nobody thinks they are. The engine of apostasy is pride. Could you stand for a moment? I want to read from the book of Genesis, chapter 3. Scene in the garden. The serpent addressing Mother Eve. Genesis chapter 3, beginning at verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, You shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, You shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said unto the woman, You shall not surely die. For God knows that in the day that you eat thereof, that your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And you may be seated. I'll be reading other scriptures. We wonder whether just the appearance of the food or the food itself to suppress an appetite. Evidently there was something about this fruit that was more than just to give you nourishment. Eve looked at it and saw it, and there was an appeal there. Something appealed to her more than just, you can be famished and real hungry and you can smell the aroma of food and it does something to you. But with Mother Eve, it was more than that. And it was more than just food. And I believe there was more than just a pleasing appearance there for her. Probably it's possible that maybe just because it was food or just pleasing that she would not have partaken of it. But there was an element that entered into her thinking that God did not put there. But anytime you talk to the devil, anytime anyone has any conversation with the devil, you're going to come out of it clouded. You're going to come out of it so often tainted with pride. Because if he is anything, he is the epitome of pride. The reason for his fall from heaven is because he said, I will exalt my throne above that of the Most High. I will sit in the congregation. I will. God said, no, you won't. Jesus said, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. What a great fall that was. All because